Welcome, sir.
Hi, how are you? Hi, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're joining from. Where are you joining from?
Good afternoon.
Where
Hi,
I'm
is
joining from
Kaya.
everyone?
SA.
Good
I'm joining
afternoon.
from South
Good
Africa.
evening.
South Africa.
Yes.
Oh, very nice. What's the weather like? Which city of South Africa are you in, sir?
I'm in Cape Town.
Cape Town. What's the weather like right now?
It's partly cloudy today, but it's not cold or hot.
It was 35 degrees Celsius in Delhi, India today.
Oh, so India is that hot today?
India is really hot. I mean, this part of India is hot.
Oh,
Of course, there are parts of India which are still biting cold. So
okay.
yeah, we have four seasons, and in India every day you will find some place there is the one season represented.
No, I totally understand. Cape Town is also like that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Shall I start, sir?
Yes, it's time. Absolutely on time.
Yes, sir. Sure. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Raghav from the team of GISA Council. I welcome you all to the Audit Documentation Hygiene, What to Ask and What Must Be There webinar conducted by GISA Council. It is a not-for-profit organization committed to empowering individuals and organizations through specialized training and globally recognized certifications. Our mission is to strengthen the cybersecurity and IT governance ecosystem by building skilled professionals through programs such as Associate Information Systems Auditor, CISA, CISM, CIRIS, Prep Training, ISO IEC 27001-2022, Lead Auditor, CISSP Prep Training, GDPR Specialist, and many more. Please note that we will share the CP certificate form approximately 10 to 15 minutes before the session concludes. It is mandatory to fill and submit this form in order to receive your CP certificate, 1 hour CP certificate. Now it's my privilege to introduce Mr. Yagneshwar Iyer sir, a distinguished professional with over 30 plus years of experience in cybersecurity and IT governance. He holds certifications including CISA, CISM, CDPAC, and have served in leadership roles such as CIO, CTO, and CISO. We look forward to gaining valuable insights from his vast expertise. Best wishes to all the participants. Sir, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very, as always, very uh, generous introduction, more than I deserve. So quickly, guys, we have a lot of area to cover, and we're going to move quickly. Have you watched these movies where the almost certain criminal accused had to be released acquitted because of lack of evidence or of poorly presented evidence? Anyone remember this movie called Primal Fear? Anyone?
I've watched Law Abiding Citizen. It's also similar to what you are saying.
Yeah, but law-abiding citizen was that Butler fellow, right? Gerald Butler.
Yes, and yeah, and Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, correct. Jeremy Fox. Yeah, yeah. The Fox is a lovely
Mm,
actor, right? So yeah,
yeah.
so you don't want that to happen to you as an IT auditor, right? You don't want your audit report to be thrown out of the court because your evidence was not reliable or your evidence was not um, useful or evidence was not clear. Yes, does that make sense? That
Yes, it
is
does.
the that is the purpose of today's 1 hour session. So I'm going to move really quickly. Okay, we are only covering five of the most critical ITGC, IT General Controls audit area. ITGC audit is a much broader scope and landscape. But these five areas that I have chosen today, you will find that irrespective of industry, you will find these five areas of ITGC audit are critical, and we will quickly look at them and understand how to manage evidence from there, how to collect it, what are the good practices for evidence, what are the things to look for, what are the questions to ask, and how to collect evidence. Right, we quickly go through them. Like I mentioned this, right? You don't want the accused to go scot free because the evidence was poorly presented. In our world, we are not. I guess some of us might be lawyers. I'm not. In our world of auditors, we want to ensure that our observations are presented correctly. Our observations should be observations based on solid, irrefutable evidence. They should not be opinions. Opinions, the closest that our opinions come to are recommendations based on our observations, which are based on evidence. There are a couple of core principles about when you collect evidence of on any part of IT, in fact anything, is that if a third person looks at your evidence, right, and understands um, the the purpose of collecting that evidence, understands the attributes, should come that another person should also come to the same conclusion as you had, right? So when two independent people can come to the same conclusion from a set of evidence, which means one, your evidence was solid, two, your reasoning was also similar to that person, but also hopefully logical. Okay, the standard that we want to set in our audits is that every observation maps to a piece of evidence. 1:1 means that you may have more than one piece of evidence that leads to an observation, but that observation maps directly to the evidence, right? Any third party auditor reaches the same conclusion with the same evidence for the same context. Evidence will be dated, versioned, and the source of that evidence should be clearly attributed. Where did you get the evidence from, or who gave it to you? How was the evidence collected, and when, where, and how? Okay. Nothing exists in an auditor's notes that isn't in the work papers. That work papers is a collection of all the documents that you have when you conduct a particular audit. The problem that we are trying to solve is that any observation that I said without supporting evidence are opinions, and we want observations, not opinions. Inconsistency in documentation leads to inconsistency in conclusions. Untraceable evidence cannot be defended in external reviews or to external auditors or to external stakeholders. Audit fatigue often leads to shortcuts, and shortcuts create liability. Okay, evidence must be objective. It must be sourced from a reliable, authorized source. Evidence must also be received from an authorized source. So I got asked in one of the CISA courses I conduct. I conduct CISA, the ISACA CISA review courses for GISA Council and for ISACA's New Delhi chapter and for a couple of other people as well. So I was asked, but what if we get a whistleblower complaint? So I said, what do you do when you get a whistleblower complaint? Right? Let's say you get a whistleblower complaint, oh, this IT is not doing this thing properly. Fair enough. Do you pay heed to it? You might, right? Depending on the complaint, you might decide to act on. But what will you do? Will you just accept the whistleblower complaint because it was a whistleblower complaint? No, you won't. You will investigate it. You will try to find evidence that either supports the whistleblower complaint or refutes it. So again, it comes back to the same thing. Your evidence should support your observation. Just because somebody has told you something, the whistleblower is an anonymous person. The whistleblower is not the single point of contact who is authorized to give you evidence. Therefore, you must go and check if that whistleblower's claim is also right. So any knowledge that you receive from anywhere has to be corroborated with evidence. Okay. Evidence must come from trusted and authorized sources. This is what I just mentioned. What are trusted sources? Of course, we say we get it from people, but where are the people getting it from? In IT, evidences come from systems, not from people. Okay, system generated reports from production environments, right? There should be you can use, let's say you're ensuring that a particular process is producing the right result. How do you see, okay, these are the transaction data you entered, this is the output, right? So get a dump of the transaction data entered, get a copy of the actual report from the system. Where possible, get it generated in front of you or generated yourself. Now, exports pulled directly by the auditor or in your presence and not by the auditee. logs with timestamps from immutable or write protected system. Immutable is any media in this instance that cannot be rewritten. So like a CD-ROM drive, right? When you write something on a CD-ROM, it's a write once device. It cannot be overwritten. Now, not everybody, nobody uses CD-ROM drives, and of course, file sizes are very huge. So what we have today is in many organizations, you have log aggregator software. So all IT systems create logs, and those logs can be sent securely to another software where the administrators of those IT systems won't be able to access them and the logs won't be changed. That gives you reasonable confidence that the logs that you get from the SIEM, Security Incident and Event Management, or log aggregation software is reliable and has not been tampered with by anybody. Right? Screenshots captured in real time with metadata. Now, for example, I recently audited a bank where they were accessing all their servers, including their core banking servers, using the root login of Linux. Very bad idea, right? So, I mean, they should ideally access it using non-administrator credentials, and then they should change to administrator credentials where they require administrative rights to perform those actions and then log out immediately. So, I took a screenshot of the fact that they were logged in as root. I took a screenshot of their typing in root, entering a password, and now I had evidence that I had taken. Right now, you can't dispute it, and you did this operation in front of me as well, and I made that note that this person on this date at this time took this, and my photo from my camera, of course, has the right date and timestamp, which cannot be refuted later. Okay. Now, what is an authorized source? Example is a report that runs under credentials authorized for audit access. Typically, many advanced systems, many advanced ERP systems, other systems will have special access for auditors, right? Or special actions that auditors can perform without modifying anything. Now, audit roles are also built into many software where auditors will have access to certain information and also reports. Now, there might be certain confidentiality issues, but typically auditors, especially external auditors, are under an NDA, so they typically have access to all those information. Now, if those systems that you're auditing have special auditor access, you should use them, or you should have an employee generate that in front of you so that you know that whatever you're getting is from the right true source and is something you can base your observations on without any reservations. The data that is pulled from governance approved system of record, confirmation received from system owners in writing, third party attestations, example SOC 1 type 2 reports. Evidence that is altered by the auditee creates audit fraud risk, right? I think we all understand this. Unverified sources are inadmissible in regulatory reviews. Source integrity protects the auditor, not just the audit. Regulators requires evidence provenance, right? You have to be able to establish that the evidence is genuine, it is complete, it is correct, and that it was received from the right place, and you did not steal the evidence. Any stolen evidence is also inadmissible. So it has to come from trusted, authorized sources and should be authorized as well. Okay. When I teach the CISA course, I keep emphasizing the need for risk assessment in at every step in performing your audit. So even when you are selecting parts of IT to audit, you should perform a risk assessment. Now, why? What does that mean? Not every organization, even two organizations in the same industry doing the same business, will approach that business separately, differently. Sorry, not separately, differently. So of course, they're separate business. They are separate. I beg your pardon. They all approach the way they perform their operations differently, and they have different risk appetites. If people didn't have different risk appetites, you wouldn't have competition, right? There is IBM started the PC business, then people said, oh, we could do better than IBM. Dell came along, HP came along, everybody started making PCs. They had different ideas of what products they could sell and how they could do better than that's why we have competition. Therefore, their risk appetites are different. They all do their work differently. Therefore, how they use different IT systems will also be different. Some companies may have some different IT systems that are more critical for them. So as an auditor, you have to understand which are those applications, which are those infrastructure items, which are those processes, which are those skills, who are those people who are most important. What does most important mean? Most important is simply that anything that can happen to those assets, information assets, like we call them, right? Which are hardware, software, data, process knowledge, people, skills, key people. They're all important. They're all information assets of an organization. Information asset, just because we are in IT doesn't mean that it's only digital. It could be on paper also, right? A piece of paper which has a report printed on it could be an important asset for the business. So understanding what can happen to information assets and what their impact on the business could be, that those the ones with the biggest impact is what you have to select. Now, for example, in a financial services firm, core banking system would be the highest financial impact, right? And the general ledger consolidation, identity management, usernames, passwords, groups, securities, roles, and all that. Change management, how are those applications changed, right? How are roles changed? How are various parts of the enterprise, which all depend on IT, changed? How is that change managed? These two, three things become very important in a financial services company. I will go in the next slide. We'll also look at the example of a manufacturing company. You will see there is not much of a difference, right? So the steps that you take is identify all your apps, all the apps that apps mean applications are made of short form that the business uses. Now, because we're talking of IT audit evidence, applications in terms of software applications. Map out the infra. What is the infrastructure they have? The IT infrastructure. Where does it run? Where all does it run? Right? Because if it runs in one within your facility, if it runs on the cloud, if it is distributed, all that can have an impact on the criticality or your risk assessment of the importance of that information asset. And then you have to see which is the one that I have to, because your audit should pay attention to those assets which have maximum business impact from risk, right? Risk is what? Risk is a potential for loss. Every asset has a potential for loss. That loss has to be quantified or qualified in some way. Now, based on that quantification of the potential for loss of any risk that threatens an information asset, you should choose those parts to audit first, right? Which ensures that the risk of your missing something material in your audit is also minimized. We can't really make that risk zero, right? And we can't possibly audit every little thing. So what we always do is perform a risk assessment, find the riskiest parts of the business which can have maximum impact on the business if the risk event happens on them, right? A non-negotiable audit. There are a few areas that we have to audit, irrespective of the business that we are in. From an IT general controls perspective, is user access management, change management. Change management has a couple of different aspects to it. We won't go into a lot of detail. You change manage of applications also, right? Now, if you know that iOS updated to 24, I think a couple of days ago. What is that? Is a change of your operating system. Microsoft updates Windows every once in a while. Your Android operating system gets updated. That's all update. Sometimes it's a small update, sometimes it's a large update, but that update is still changing your operating system, right? Your software gets upgraded, your Microsoft Office gets upgraded, your database servers get upgraded, your SAP ERP software gets updated. Now, every time you change your application, there is a potential for something going wrong, right? Are you controlling that at least? It could still go wrong, but are you controlling that process in a way that you minimize the impact of something going wrong as a result of that change? And most change is required. You can't say, I won't make the change. If you don't make the change, your system might end up with some security risk, which you don't want clearly, okay? The logical access to financially significant systems always have to be checked, right? Any system, any software that has a financial implication for the business, that is used for managing the finances or processing the finances of the business, should always be in scope. And then IT operations, which are backup and recovery, at least they should always be in scope, because backup and recovery are controls against loss of availability, a loss of or lack of availability or loss of availability, and in some cases, integrity of data. Okay. Now, let's take the example of a manufacturing firm. In a manufacturing firm, typically you will say the ERP. Now, as opposed to, let's say, a bank, a core banking system. The core banking system is an ERP for a bank, whereas a traditional ERP with sales, purchase, manufacturing, stores, invoicing, accounts receivable, payable is the ERP for a manufacturing firm, right? Then the inventory management system, the production scheduling and control, supply chain. These are all critical applications for a manufacturing company. However, again, user access management, change management, logical access to financially significant systems and IT operations still remain important for us to look at as auditors. That doesn't change. Again, the process for you to identify is similar across any kind of an organization. Identify the applications that are financially significant, map out all the infra, where they are placed, how do they communicate, assess what are the risks there and what are the controls you need, and then rank the top five, and then you audit them. Sorry. Okay, next batch of CISA that I'm going to starts on the 18th of April, and it will conclude hopefully on the 17th of May. And you get a lot of benefits. The biggest benefit is I'll be teaching the class, guys. So 40 hours, and we cover again the course material like I have created for CISA is again based on the business impact analysis, and in this case, the businesses that the participants in these batches, they have to pass the CISA exam and be effective IT auditors, right? That is the objective. And now I selected topics from the CISA review course that are most important from that perspective, and I cover that. Uh, and yes, and the fees mentioned, the numbers are mentioned here. You can take a screenshot, you can connect with GISA Council, and they will give you more information. CISA exam voucher is given at a discounted price. What the discounted price is, please ask. And of course, you get CP certificates for, I think, also the 40 hours that you will spend as part of this course. So far, any questions? Now we are coming to the meat of the 1 hour or the 40 minutes, 45 minutes, 35 minutes we have together. Any questions so far? Any questions? Any observations? Anything? Anyone? You have to unmute yourself and anything at all.
I wanted to say, when you said about the information being correct, is that you must also look into the chain of command when you gather the information.
Yeah.
You must also review the chain of command when you gather the information to be presented for the audit report.
Depends. Chain of command is not so important. The only place where chain of command really helps is for you to understand the structure of the organization and of the IT organization, which also gives you insights into what kind of systems or what size of the IT organization might be. Therefore, you can also get an understanding of how big IT is, how deeply dependent that business is on the IT team. What are the different skills that the IT team has? What are the different roles they have? Now, if they have five, six different roles, which means they have those systems, right? They have those systems. They can't say if they have an ERP manager, then clearly they have an ERP. They
Mm.
can't turn around and say, I don't have an ERP, right? So chain of command from that perspective is important. Um, Other than that, for IT audits, what we need is who is responsible for taking care of which part of IT, and what are the risks that you have identified to your IT systems. How have you controlled it? We are only looking for evidence that you have controlled it to the extent that that your business wants you to control it, okay? Or to the extent that the law requires you to control it. Any law or regulation that applies on the business, it comes on top, that is non-negotiable. You can have a risk appetite as a business saying, oh, this doesn't matter, this is okay, I'll take a risk, right? This risk I can take because the cost of managing that risk might be too high. So I don't want to, we can't afford this money, so we won't take the risk. But if the law requires you to have a certain level of protection, you have to have that, okay? Now, user access management is the highest ITGC risk area, right? And this happens across industries. You can just take this as granted. The first thing you check in IT audit is user access management. Now, users have life cycle. They join the company, they work, they might change roles in the company, and then they leave. When they join, they are assigned rights. Who assigns them rights? Who approves those rights? Are those rights appropriate to the roles? Right? Is the principle of least privilege applied? What is the principle of least privilege? The principle of least privilege is simple. Every user must have rights to IT systems according to their role. No more, no less. No more means that person could commit a mistake, that his account could be used for doing something else. There could be some fraudulent action which this person may or may not have performed, but will be attributed to that person. Less rights, which means the person won't be able to do his or her job efficiently. So the rights have to be commensurate with what that role is, that person's expectation of the person is, right? So, and then is whatever rights he is given, whatever rights that person is given, are they authorized by the right person? Is there a proper process for authorization? If not, why are there exceptions, right? Why are there exceptions? What are the exceptions? Is it 1 out of 100 or is it 5 out of 10? Right? Those are the questions that we have to look for, right? And then what happens in organizations is people will change roles. As they change roles, they may go from department A to department B. They might be in a transition period, right? The department B, A manager will say, listen, can you please continue to help till the other person takes over? Yeah, I'll continue to help. So the employee is carrying the rights for department A also, or function A, right? But when that handover happens, everybody will forget. So this employee who's moved from function A to function B continues to carry the rights for function A. Then what happens is that there can be some misuse, right? Even though you might say the employee is trustworthy, he's been with us for 10 years. No, organizations don't work on trust. Organizations work on information assets that whose risks are identified and appropriately controlled through a process. That process is that there should be a periodic review of access rights to all employees, right? Which then should be reviewed and approved by the right people. This is what we have to look for, right? And then the second thing is that if somebody leaves the organization, how soon do you disable that person's account so that no unauthorized access can be performed? It may not be that person who's left. It may be that somebody else performs a fraudulent action using the credentials of the person who's left. Even that happens. So user uh, throughout the life cycle comes in, works, changes departments, leaves. Right, all those actions, all the actions of giving the user the rights should work, changing the rights that the user has, and taking those rights away when the user leaves have to be done. Right, then they're always in all IT systems. There will be super users or administrators or root users, or whatever you call them. They have elevated privileges, or they are privileged users. They can do anything on a system, including delete everything. So their actions should be monitored. And how many administrators do you have now? Industry wide, there is a basic thumb rule saying you should not have more than 5% of administrators. There's a plus minus, but there is, if you say a vague number, more than 5%. If you have administrators, let's say there's a 100 employee company, and if you have 10 administrators, then you should ask questions. Why do you have so many? About 5%, you are still happy. Okay, at least that is a number is okay. Now I can go ahead and check what are those actions. Are their actions tracked properly? Do we know what actions administrators are performing? Because they have total rights. They can do whatever they want. And they also have the ability to hide their footprints, right? And that ability should also not be allowed. They should not be allowed to wipe their footprints or their fingerprints when they do something. Their actions should be logged and kept away in such a manner that they can't tamper with the logs. Anyone saying something, you have to unmute yourself. I can't see the uh, window of the participants. If you raise the hands, I can't see. So please unmute yourself and feel free to ask questions. I'm very happy for questions. Okay. What are the kind of
Hi,
questions? Yes.
hi. My name is Kunal. I have a question about this. So sometimes I have observed that, like, if we get a list from HR, that might miss some of the users which are created internally by the IT team for certain administrative access purpose, right?
Yeah.
So I was wondering, in that case, like, for some of the organizations, there are like 1,000 users or 1,500
Hmm.
users at a time. How can we effectively review those three users, just to make sure that we are not missing any of them
So
while
yeah,
we do?
what I do is I ask them to give me a list of users. I do a VLOOKUP and check. Okay, two-way VLOOKUP, or let's say I have a source system to do a check against the HR list. If I find any users there in the source system which are not there in the HR list, I ask questions. Okay. Now,
Okay.
if there are users in the HR list which are not there in the system, I see if those users have exited. If they have exited, Then I see if their exit date, according to HR records, is the same as the date of disablement of those accounts in the source system. It's just two-way matches and you're done. And wherever they
Okay,
are,
but that applies on the user case scenario. Like as I mentioned earlier, like so for some user created within the system by the IT department for certain work areas, right? For instance, like if they have access management system, they have a dedicated AD user for that, and certain team members in IT have access for that
now,
particular
if you
user.
are, it looks like you're talking of non-person specific IDs, right? Typically
Yes,
shared
yes.
IDs. Yeah,
Not
typically,
preferably shared IDs, but yeah, non-person IDs, I would say.
yeah, non-personal IDs as a principle should be discouraged. Sometimes you can't escape them, in which case all actions performed using non-individual IDs should be tracked and audited and reviewed on a extremely regular basis, depending on the criticality of that system.
Correct. I got the point. Like
Delivery
as an auditor, let's say,
much.
sorry,
If you're
Michael.
not talking, please go on mute. If you're not talking, please be on mute, everyone. Yes, sir. Continue, sir.
Yeah. So as an auditor, let's say if we are auditing our organization for the first time, we won't be able to have an insight like how many such users are there, right? So I was just wondering what is the effective method to find out that or to discover that.
So you understand what systems they have, right? Which is what I said here in the previous slide. What systems do they run?
Mhm.
Yes. Then you identify which are those most critical ones. You may not be auditing your, depending on what your audit scope is, you may be given audit everything, right? Then you have to figure out which are the most important ones to audit. At least get those ones, and then find out how to extract a user list from that system, user role from that system for each user. Every system will have something. It may not have an export. It may have a screen display, right?
Right. Right.
Something it will have. Some kind of user list it will have. You have to make that. You have to start from there.
Sorry, can I ask you a quick question?
Please go ahead, sir.
Non-user IDs. Give me an example because I thought that was
IT
a
support,
risk.
IT support at acme.com. Who does it belong to?
Well, that's a generic. There's no account. How would you do accountability then?
Exactly. That was my exact
So
point. You
shouldn't it be just ruled out because there's no accountability? And if they start
that's
messing with
right.
financial systems,
That's right. The
that,
what
that shouldn't
why
be allowed
companies,
at all.
that should not be allowed, but in some cases you can't escape it. In
No,
some
but
cases, those
isn't that a fail then?
it sort of fail if there is a justifiable reason for why you have to have a shared ID. Then we as auditors are looking for if there is a compensating control on top of it to
For
see if,
example.
for example, what operations are being performed using that ID, right?
Yeah, but still the accountability, you can't track the
Yes, you
accountability.
you can't track, but at least you can do things like, for example, when there is on shifts, and we had this problem once, so I know how to solve this. we had we
Thank
had
you.
people working we had people working in shifts, right? IT
Yeah.
support used by 5 people. There's only one person on that shift at that time when that happened.
Oh, so there is a track that you can actually
So,
have accountability.
exactly. So time logs, the roster sheets,
Okay.
CCTV
Yeah.
footage, which IP did you log in from? In one of the last slides, sir, is about triangulation of evidence,
Yes. So
like
there is
G.
accountability, but indirect, like out of band, you can say.
That's right. That's right. But where possible, we certainly want to discourage shared IDs because there is no way to establish accountability. There are 5 people who have access to an ID. When something goes wrong, none of those five would have used the ID, right? Some ghost would have come and used the ID and done that, that invalid operation. And you're right. So there are other ways of getting hold of it, and I actually did it. We actually caught an IT administrator slowly creeping up to the CCTV, turning the camera around. Idiot didn't know there was another camera around the other side of the hall, right? and then he sits on a computer and he was accessing somebody's emails.
But
So
shared IDs should be absolutely forbidden. It's against the
yes, but
zero
you see,
trust
there are some
principle.
companies who might use some old software for which they can't get licenses.
But
And
they
also
can
just
they
to
not
just to
use
add on that
just-in-time
particular
access?
point,
Sorry,
and
sorry.
just in time access is dependent on the system. So sometimes companies using legacy system that doesn't allow
Yeah,
sorry, the single sign on for
yeah.
legacy applications, so that's why
That
they
too,
use shared
that
IDs.
too, that too. But you may run out of licenses. They may be too expensive. Some companies try to, be cheapskates, not buy additional licenses, right? So there, you simply say you have to buy these licenses because now that your recommendation should also be based on risk, right? For you can't generalize this. Let's say it's an application that is used by the chappie in the cafeteria to track how many coffees are shipped. Is that as important as a shared ID in your financial accounting system?
Yes, I think
No, right?
thank you for that. I think you've answered.
Yeah. So you
You've
also
made
have
it
to
clear.
take
Yeah.
yeah you have to take into account the risks, right, and the appropriate control required to manage the risk depending on the impact on business of that risk event happening.
Thank you for that.
Not a
Thank
problem.
you.
Happy
Thank
to
you.
help. If it helped you, happy to help. All right.
Absolutely, you made it clear. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. So, hygiene rules for user access management logs, extract access reports yourself. Access reports is basically, if you see, there's a list of roles, right? Who has access now? What happens is another important thing to remember is many organizations do access reviews. Okay, manager, here are your reportees, your employees. They have these roles in the system. Manager will say, yeah, perfect. Go and ask the manager, do you know what this role is allowed to do in this software in your ERP? 99% managers will have no idea because the operations assigned to roles are managed by somebody else. The manager is given a list every month to say user A role operator, right? User B role approver. User C role something else. Now, what that role is allowed to do, no one knows. That is what
Sorry,
we have to check.
sorry, I have one more question, and it's related to uh, the current situation. Non-human identities. Is that covered in the CISA?
Yes, they're called system to system interfaces. Yes, non-human entities are system to
I'm talking
system.
about where you have agentic AI involved,
So,
non-human
see,
IDs.
no, it doesn't matter what the system is. What matters is what data does that system have access to? What
Okay, it's
actions
the
can
same.
be
Yeah, yeah.
performed by that? Right?
Thank you.
And what are the risks posed to the business by that process?
Thank you.
In any system, if you apply the principles of understand the risk, understand the impact on business from that risk.
Yes,
If my factory produces $1 million worth of goods every month, or say $100,000 worth of goods every day, and it stops working for a day, what is the impact on business? $100,000, right?
yes, yes. Thank you. You
Now,
made that
now,
very
if
clear.
awesome, awesome. Okay, so wherever possible, extract role access reports yourself. Try and see if the managers who are approving roles or reviewing roles, if they understand what each of those roles is allowed to do. Most managers will not know, and this is a very important hygiene step for us as auditors to take. Because what happens is in these reviews become a check mark. Oh, I have to do this. IT is a pain in the ass. They keep asking us to do this every month. They think we have nothing bloody hell better to do in life. Okay, everything is fine. Go ahead. They don't even understand what the roles are, right? What I did as an IT CIO, 1 month, I injected some non-existing users in my monthly review. and the manager approved those also. Okay, those users didn't even exist in the organization. I just added them to the review, and they approved it. Okay, cross-reference HR data.
What did you do then? That was very clever of you.
So you see,
That's a good
by,
way. I'm
by
going to remember that.
yeah, so you see, by that time I had been teaching the CISA course for a few years, and I understood the importance of these reviews, right? Then of course I
Yeah.
met the manager. I met the manager and I said, listen, this is the importance of this we are doing. I understand this is a pain in the ass for you. I
Were
know
you
this is
not?
an extra. No, no, I
That
was not the
was
auditor, right? I was the CIO. I was the internal person.
no, that was
He was.
top class.
Yeah. So no, no, I'm a mad hat like that. I have a couple of stuff missing up top. So I do shit like this all the time.
That's
Okay.
very
So
good. That
okay. Now, important thing is that, and another thing you have to look for is, are all role assignments, are all access assignments approved by the right authority, and all of them approved? If there are any exceptions, normally you will find that those exceptions are done out of a sense of or a misplaced sense of emergency, right? Now, typically you will find that this happens in case of senior employments or the junior most employments, because senior roles, they people, the others will say everything should be ready, everything should be tip top. I know this the person should not have any problems accessing any system. That person can't even type his username and password properly. Most people, no offense meant, they can't, right? That is so that doesn't matter, but everything has to be ready even before that person is walked in. And then what happens is that what rights that person has, who is approving it, there is there is the whole process of approval is then skipped. The other place there you will where you will find this is that entry level employees, or the lowest rung, where people are doing work, they're actually working, right? They're actually initiating transactions, where there is always a sense of urgency to fill blanks or fill roles, or there are blanks in roles. There you will find these issues. So look out for them. Middle managers are typically the poor fellows, right? People like us, they are the poor fellows. They said all the compliance is put on us only. Everybody else typically tends to escape. So look for how many exceptions are there. Exceptions of approvals for role assignments will typically show a process failure or lack of controls in the process. Okay. Okay. We have a question. You guys can quickly read this. We are really short of time. I don't think we'll be able to cover the whole portion. Quickly read this and you can comment your answer in the chat.
Sorry, one last question. Thank you. Exceptions, if they breach policy, what's the status of these exceptions?
Well,
Or
I have a slightly different take on that from what the books say, and that's an absolutely fair thing to say. Is that I look at the impact of the breach of policy. I also look at the reason for the breach. Many times you will find that the policy is a bookish policy made without any thought to practicalities. Policies
yes,
have to be practical. Yes, they have to be effective. Control
yes.
should be effective in meeting control objectives, but effective controls that make processes inefficient are useless controls.
What about if there's mention of the possibility of exceptions in the policy? So that basically covers it then, doesn't it?
No, that is
If,
also a wrong thing, because then you're
no?
giving an open field day to everyone to
Oh,
have
yeah,
exceptions.
yeah,
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 exceptions should
yeah,
be exceptions. Exceptions to the
yeah.
policy can't be part of the policy.
I see. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, quickly, you guys want to answer this? It's an easy question. It just looks big. Quickly read this, and you want to type your answer into the chat. I'll give you 10 more seconds, everyone. All right. If any those of you answered C, C for Calcutta or C for Charlie in airline lingo, you got it right. I think so, hopefully. Yes. So quickly, you can take 2 minutes or 2 seconds to read this correct answer, and then we will move because I don't think we are, as always in all my webinars, always go over time.
So are you saying verbal assurances don't
Not good
count
enough. No, they don't count.
at all?
You know, at
We want it
all.
in writing.
We want it in writing. We want hard
Thank you.
evidence.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
No problem. Okay. Change management. Action and remember this, guys. Action and inaction both have risks. When you're changing something in an organization, changing it comes with certain risks. Not changing it also has risks. If you have a security update to your operating system issued by your um, software provider or your operating system provider, you may choose not to apply that, but that puts you at a risk of some kind of security event or incident. Applying it could mean that something may not work because the software is changing. If you are today running Windows 10 in your organizations or in your audit organizations, some are running even Windows 7. What is the risk? Microsoft has stopped giving you security updates for Windows 10 after 14th of October 2025. You are running those systems. You are now running the risk of those systems getting infected in some way or being attacked in some way. Their vulnerabilities in those operating systems not being patched and being exploited. If you move to Windows 11, it's okay. I move to Windows 11. I can't take the risk of being alert. Now, you move to Windows 11, you may find that your application doesn't work. There are many companies in the world who have a special contract with Microsoft, and Microsoft is still maintaining Windows 7 for them. Some of them are still maintaining Windows XP because their softwares have not moved to the newer operating systems. They are paying millions of dollars to Microsoft for special maintenance of Windows XP and Windows 7, right? Because their applications and the cost for them to move those applications perhaps is much more than they're paying Microsoft's a few $1 million. Why do you think Microsoft is such a rich company? They deserve every money, every penny, every dollar they make, honestly. Okay. Now, why is a formal change request and approval process required? Because a formal change request and approval process ensures that there is an established business need for every change. No change should be made out of a whim or a fancy. Every change in an organization should have a business need. It may not. Business doesn't mean that non-IT. That is not just business. If IT is making a change, IT is also working for the business. If something goes wrong in IT, who gets affected? IT doesn't get affected. The business gets affected. If IT patches or upgrades an ERP system and something goes wrong, who gets affected? The business gets affected. The whole company organization gets affected, right? So IT risk is enterprise risk of businesses. Therefore, changes to IT are changes to the enterprise. Therefore, IT risks are enterprise or business risks. Therefore, IT change management is needs to be controlled. Every change in IT has to have a business reason. Changes should be tested as far as possible on a separate system before they are pushed to production. Even after testing on a testing system and before they are applied to production, IT should have a rollback plan. Every time you put something into production, you apply a change into production, you should have a rollback plan. I have tested this, great. On a test system or a development system or a quality system, there are various terms that are used. Typically, you will find test or quality as a term being used. Development is a separate environment normally. Some companies will have development slash test slash quality in one system. Some companies will have development in one system, test or quality in one, and production will be separate, right? Production systems, before they are any changes are applied to them, the changes should be, again, I'm giving you as a general principle. This separation of production versus quality or test again will depend on the criticality of the system. If the impact of something going wrong in that system is not high enough, you may not have a test system. Then we'll, like, for example, how many of us think twice about applying the latest iOS update or Android update to our phones? Probably none of us. We just apply it, right? I'm always a flutter when I read, oh, update is coming. I'm half the time I'm awake at night. I want to be the first in the world to apply, as if it's going to give me some prize from the late Steve Jobs. Nothing's going to happen. But I applied, right? And if my phone gets bricked, it gets bricked. It doesn't matter. My data's on the cloud. I'll sync another phone and I'll start off. So the impact on my work is very limited. That is not the case in organizations. Okay, the impact of some new change of software could be major. And however, we recognize that some changes will have to be made in an emergency without going through the whole change review approval. But however, even emergency changes, you typically have enough time for notifying someone and getting a go ahead. You may not have time to document the request approval process, but you certainly will have the time to acquire the approval of the right person. Again, here the segregation of duties principle is very important, is that the person who performs an operation should not be the person who approves or authorizes it. This differentiation is different. If a person who is making changes to a firewall, he is the person who approves it, he is the person who checks it, he is the person who does it, he is the person who justifies it. Right? He might as well hand over the keys of the bloody organization to him and go away, right? So that it can never work like that. There has to be a genuine need for it, and that has to be applied. Now, in case of emergency changes, it is all right to document the need for that emergency change post the event, right? But still, it is preferable. You almost always have the time to, to at least seek approval in some communication and record that communication. Okay.
Sorry, I have a quick question, please.
Yes.
In your professional experience, have you come across agentic systems and non-human IDs within the audit scope? Have you personally? Because obviously a lot of companies are now still early
Okay.
stages, but all the big companies are now
Yes.
introducing agentic systems. Has that come
Yes.
into scope of any of the
Yes.
audits that you've done? Has that
Yes.
complicated it?
Oh, yes, because most of these systems do not maintain sufficient details of logs as to what
So,
operations they have performed. Most of the
so that
systems are lacking. Yeah, that's a problem. I mentioned in
that
my
must be a
report.
big problem because it's
That's a
really
big problem.
behind the security in AI.
I have mentioned as an observation that I strongly recommend that either these systems be modified, or the suppliers be asked to include detailed logging, right? And most of these systems lack any kind of role-based access control. Anybody who has one username password can do everything that that agent allows you to do. There is no
So that
separation of.
basically, yeah. Sorry. So
No,
does
so,
that
yeah.
that impacts the time it takes to audit because now you've got to take into account all these new.
Actually, it's other way around because I don't have to do anything. There is no evidence for me. I just say there's no evidence. I can't comment on this. I can't comment whether it's right
Okay.
or wrong. So it just in a couple of cases made my job extremely easy because if there are laws, I'll have to study them, right?
Yeah. 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 Because it just makes it more complex, then, isn't it? The environment is getting so complex now,
It's getting
and
extremely complex.
and
Extremely
it,
complex.
and AI security is not even mature at the moment.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
And there is such a mad rush to adopt these new tools that
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
almost no company is performing even a cursory risk assessment of these new tools.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you for that.
No,
Thank
no
you.
problem. No problem. Okay. All right. Okay. What is the evidence we have to collect for change management? Change tickets, which show request approval, test results, and sign off. Sign off from typically from end users or from the whoever is going to approve the change that the change is working correctly. Sample of changes, trace from ticket to deployment logs. Okay. Emergency change log with after the fact approvals. Developer access to production must show restriction. Developers should not have access to what are developers? They're software developers. Software developers should not have access to production systems because the assumption is that software developers, by virtue of having written the software, developed the software, know the internal workings, internal controls, and may be able to manipulate data without being discovered. If you're raising your hand, I can't see. So I heard some beep. So if please speak. Okay. That's the one. Okay. Now, hygiene rules, select a sample across the full audit period, not just recent changes. depending on the potential impact on the business of that particular system whose change management processes you are auditing. Again, go back to first principles, always based on risk assessment, finding out what the impact. Ask yourself, if I don't audit this, and if there is a fraud, or if there is a lack of proper process control here, what could happen to the business? Right? Ask yourself that question. You should perform a risk assessment of your own work, and that allows you to minimize the chance that you will miss auditing something that is of material risk to the organization. You yourself should perform your own risk assessment. Document the population size and sampling methodology. Why did you accept? Now, I also when I teach a CISA course, I give practical tips on how to select a sample size. Now, there are certain daily controls. There are some controls which are executed on daily basis. Like, for example, new employee, exited employee. This can happen every day. This can happen any day. Backups, for example, backups could happen every day. You can have weekly backups. You can have monthly backups, or depending on that frequency, you can have monthly reports being generated. You could have quarterly reports being generated. So those will have lesser samples through the year, whereas something like new user provisioning approval, user exits could have daily events. So depending on the periodicity of an event which needs to be controlled and monitored and reviewed, select your sample size. You don't have to worry about statistical sampling. That's not really something you need to worry about. Take a practical outlook to, okay, is this thing happening daily? Could this happen daily? Yes, it can happen daily. New employees can come any day. They can come every day. Some people could quit every day. Okay, this means this is a daily control, right? How often do you back up? How often do you clear your logs? Ask those questions. Then decide, okay, this thing is very important. So I need to take 4 samples or 6 samples or 8 samples. Oh, this thing is critical. I need to take all the samples from the last year. This is a very good way to for figuring out how many to sample to give you a reasonable assurance that you have looked at a sizable size to arrive at your observation. Okay. One sec, sorry. Okay, quick question. You want to take this or should we move? We only have 3 minutes. Should we move to the next one so that we cover quickly? Anyone? Should we move to the next one instead of the question? I think we'll move here.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. Privileged access, I mentioned this briefly. Privileged access is performed by those users who are called administrators of system. There are various systems in any IT. There'll be applications, there'll be network, there'll be security systems like firewalls, there'll be network switches, there'll be WAN connections, there'll be various other systems which will all have administrators. Administrators typically have access to the system, its configuration, its behavior, what all users can do on that system, access to that, who can access, what can they do, and administrators also typically have the ability to hide what they do. Therefore, their access must be controlled depending on the criticality of systems, of the organization, of the impact. The many companies will implement privileged access management software. It's called PAM software. Now, privileged access management software, there are various kinds of software. What privileged access management software does is all administrators have to access all systems through that software. It's a gateway, right? It's a portal to all other systems, and all their activities are tracked. Advanced systems will even have video recording of everything they do. Once they connect to their systems, which they are administrators of, their logs will be shifted to different systems where the administrators themselves won't have any control. Now, questions to ask is, which roles have privileged or admin level access? Who are those roles? How are they identified? In which systems are they? I gave you the thumb rule of 5%. That's a good way to look at it also. Can a single user both create and approve, right? So maker, checker, is there the same user, different users? Another thing that happens is there are 2 accounts for maker and checker, but the same person does it, right? He creates an entry, logs out, logs in as the checker, approves it. Is that a control on paper? Yes. It is made by one user, it is checked by another user. But is it an effective control? No, it is not. How do you check it? Right? Take some random samples to see if you can where is the which is the machine from which it was done? If there are any IP addresses, right? IP address of the making or IP address of the checker, are they the same? Right? Are they right next to each other? Right, within a very small period of time, like in a few seconds or a minute or 2 minutes, right? Those are all things you can check for. And many places this will happen. The maker and checker, two accounts, but one person has both the accounts and that person is approving it. Source from which computer, if that is tracked somewhere, you can find out. If it is not, it becomes a little more difficult. You may then need to observe their activity while they are doing it. Then you may be able to see if one person is using two IDs. Okay. Our service accounts shared our passwords rotate. This is what we were talking about. Single accounts, service account. There is another technical connotation to this, but in this case, it means that any of those administrative accounts, are they shared by multiple people, right? Are the passwords rotated? Means are they changed frequently? Are segregation of duty conflicts identified, documented, and mitigated? Is privileged access reviewed independently from line managers? Evidence to collect privileged admin roles, list of all privileged access roles. What all systems do they have access to? How are their actions logged? Who reviews those actions? How often are those administrative or privileged actions reviewed? Right. Okay. Hygiene rules: never accept verbal assurance. Get the role matrix in writing or print out from an existing system. Validate SOD tool outputs against actual system rule assignments. Document every conflict found, even if compensating controls exist. Some companies will say, oh, we lack segregation of duties, but we have compensating controls. Do not accept that as good enough. You should write that segregation of duties is missing. However, this particular compensating control has been implemented, and you found that the compensating control is being followed. Let me give you an example. One IT person has access to all IT systems. Only one person is there, small company, or two, three people, they have access, right? They perform all the actions between themselves and they all do everything. Now, who is going to see what is happening? So what we will say is, okay, listen, you have to send these logs to the COO or the CFO every week or every day, and you should have a review meeting where the minutes of meeting will be logged. 10 minutes. This is all we did, sir. This is all we did, ma'am. Right? We did this because of this, because of this, because of this, because of this. Review, minute it, send off an email or file it somewhere in a file. Right? Now, what that does is, if you had proper segregation of duties, somebody approves, somebody else does, the chance of fraud is minimized. And if there is any such fraud being happened, it'll be spotted earlier. But here, what you're doing is it'll get spotted, but it might take a week or a month to get spotted. Compensating controls, one, they delay the identification of any kind of a fraud. Okay, I don't think we have time for anything else. If you want, if you've been taking screenshots, I'll quickly move through these. You can take screenshots. And I'm sorry, we will have to end this. Um, as always, IT operations, backup and recovery. You can take a screenshot of this if you want. It's very simple language. I'm hoping you will all understand this. If you have any questions, we can take a look at it. We have to close now. I can't do this every time. Excuse me. Sorry. Okay. Other areas are, I'll quickly at least mention them in a minute. IT operations, backup, recovery, and availability. This is very critical because with today's threats, right, the correct required levels of backup and of data protection become critical. And this is also an extremely important part of our audit. Our backup and restore operations according to the needs of the business. Does the business understand how the data is backed up? That understanding from the business and their acceptance is very important. That is what we have to check as auditors, not simply the efficacy of the technical backup and restore process. Does the business understand, because they will get affected if some data losses happen? Do they understand what kind of backups are done? Do they understand how, if something happens and the backup is restored, how much data will they have to recreate? That is what they have to understand. How much time will it take them to recreate the data? How much data will they lose if different events happen? Does the business understand that? Please focus on that in your IT audits. Collect evidence to that as well. Not simply, okay, you're doing a backup every day, every month. Okay, you're doing a backup, you're doing a restore test, it's successful. Backup is failing. Great, backups will fail. The technical systems, they can fail. You are identifying it, you are restarting it. Brilliant job. This is the best IT in the world. No, that backup frequency has to match with business expectations. You go and ask anyone in the business, any department, they will all say, my data is the most important. I cannot afford to lose even one file, one transaction. I have to have every transaction backed up instantly. Is it possible? No, it's not possible. Right? Everybody's data can't be instantly backed up and maintained and instantly restored. There's a cost to it. So the business has to find, the appropriate levels of protection based on the impact of the data loss or data corruption event and the extent of data loss or data corruption of that particular data set of that process. Then only you will be able to establish the right level of protection required. Everybody doesn't need the right level of protection. You and I live in homes. We all have homes, right? We all have front door locks on our homes. Some of us may have burglar locks. Mr. Elon Musk and Mr. Bill Gates also live in homes. They also live in homes. Do their homes and our homes have the same level of protection? Obviously not, right? One Picasso painting or one Monet in Mr. Bill Gates' home will probably buy about 200 of my houses, right? So the impact on business of someone breaking into my house and breaking into Mr. Gates' house is just totally different. Therefore, he needs more protection than me. Similarly, in business, not every data, not every department, not every process, not every application has the same impact of any threat event happening. As auditors, it is our job to understand if the business understands the extent of protection that they are getting for the different data sets. I'll quickly close. I hope you guys got something from today.
Can you
Triangulation.
just share the slides?
You'll have to ask GISA Council, ma'am. Please,
Okay.
please. You know their contacts, right? I included a slide on triangulation. You can quickly I've given 2, 3 examples. You can take a screenshot of this if you want, and then this will be, I think, give you a good handle on how to find evidences that support your suspicions or otherwise, right? Or say no, I thought wrong, and that's also absolutely fine. To change your thinking and to accept something as right. Okay. So you can take a screenshot of this, but I don't know what the policies of GISA Council. And yeah, these are the 5 main areas. Every observation in your audit report must trace directly to a piece of evidence in your work papers collected from an authorized and trusted source with a clear date, system origin, and reviewer attribution. No exceptions. Right? This is the answer to the question that one of you asked. Thank you for your questions. My next CISA review batch starts. Shameless plug for my own batch, 18th April. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. I hope some of you got something out of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But
Thank
thank
you very
you.
much. Thank you very much. Been a
We
lovely
will actually
lesson.
love to have the slides. Thank you, but we'd like
Yeah,
to
Thank you.
get the
thank
Thanks.
you.
slides, please.
Thank you. Thank you. I said, oh, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Someone said you had a question. Someone said you had a question. Shivraj, did you say you had a question?
Hello, sir. Yeah, I have a question, sir. If you are available to answer my question, then I would regret.
Go, sir. Quickly. Let's go, sir.
Actually, if one of the organization have, just started their digital transformation and they are trying to build up their technology, then if we are as an auditor, if we are doing the audit from the change management part, and also from the IT project handling part, then what we have to test from our in? Can you give me some overview of that one?
Huge question. You want me to answer everything right now?
No, yes, sir. Yeah,
Digital.
as much as
You
you can, sir.
no. See, there are two things you have said. Digital transformation is basically management of change or business process reengineering.
Yeah,
Change through business process re-engineering, right? That's what business transformation basically is, or digital
yeah,
transformation is. Digital transformation is equal to business transformation through business process re-engineering. That is just managing of change. At every step, you have to consider, we are doing this. Why are we doing this? What is the benefit that we are expecting from this? What is the cost of making this change? Is the cost equal to the benefit, or does the cost justify the benefit? Right? That benefit could be derived over a period of time, which is all right. The company should be aware of that. This, if I spend $100 today, right, I will realize $150 in 3 years, or $150 worth of benefits in 3 years. There should be that understanding. Our job as auditors is to see if that acceptance, understanding is there. Have the benefits been clearly articulated? Are the goals SMART? Are they specific? Are they measurable? And A stands for, I always forget A, right? Who knows A, guys? Attainable, realistic, and time bound. SMART. Look it up, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. Those goals of your digital transformation should be smart. Once you have that, they if you take these five principles, SMART principles for your digital transformation and your project management, you will know what questions to ask. What are the benefits? What is the cost of this? In how much time should these benefits be delivered? What can go wrong as in this process? These things can go wrong. How do I control these things? That's what you have to do as auditors. Every step, map out every step. What can go wrong? What can go wrong? What can go wrong? This bloody bugger will quit and go, right? He will fall ill. He'll get run over by a bus. Then what happens?
yes, sir. I'm getting, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Should I end this call, Raghav?
Yes, yes, yes. You can.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
hope
Thank you.
I hope people have filled the CPE form if they
I
wish
don't
to
know,
have.
sir. I don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
sir.
yeah.
You.
They were filled. They were filled. Like,
Okay. They've asked about the presentation, so I asked them to ask you.
okay, okay.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye, everyone. Have a good evening.